Bone Picker squatted in a dark corner of some abandoned ruin, hunched over a scrap of meat. He had tasted real power once, long ago. Once he could walk through the streets of the dark city, and hush whispers followed him wherever he went. He was once called Calistrixus, Archon of the Blood Quarter, when his skills were sharp and his ambition knew no bounds. But that was many, many years ago. But in Kamara the mighty fall quickly. He lost everything, even his name. Now he was only Bone Picker, lurking between the borders of Lower Kamara and the Bone Middens. Bone Picker used to indulge in the most elaborate and decadent of pleasures. Now, the height of his joy was when he got his hands on a stray escaped slave once in a while. He had to survive only on the suffering he could extract with his blade. It was a simple rack tool that he had managed to scavenge from a skirmish between two homunculi. The searing venom of the weapon still coaxed the nourishing soul energy from his victims that Bone Picker craved. The wretched creature's ear twitched as he heard the sound of movement. There was a scrabbling against the rubble that seemed to grow louder. The pale, gaunt Drukhari looked out from the husk of a building he was squatting in. Out of the peephole, he saw a large beast tearing towards the door. The thing was an ugly ball of claws and teeth, and it led a pack of smaller, equally ugly mouths on legs. Bone Picker's eyes went wide as he just barely was able to leap back from the door as it burst apart. Poodle led his squig pack after this miserable Drukhari. Bone Picker tried to leap for the chain hooks hanging from the ceiling to climb out of the escape hole up top. But squigs of all sizes latched their hungry mouths on his legs, weighing him down. Poodle himself bounded forward and caught the Dark Eldar by the waist and yanked him free from the chains. Bone Picker panicked as he saw his miserable, debaucherous life flash before his eyes. He screamed out pathetically as he realized he was about to die and face the eternal torture at the hands of She Who Thirsts. Bone Picker was dragged out of the house as Poodle began padding off happily with his prize. But the Eldar was not dead. It was a few minutes before the Drukhari stopped his blubbering and realized he hadn't died, that this creature was taking him someplace. Eventually, Poodle spat out Bone Picker, and he found himself bleeding, covered in squig slobber, at the feet of Warboss Gitslaya.
"Good boy, Poodle! Good fetch! Here, have a treat!"
The Warboss flung a foot from a pile of dismembered limbs to the lead squig, as runt herders began to gather them up and get them back into their pens. Gitslaya turned his attention to the low-life Drukhari that had been brought before him. Bone Picker regained some of his composure when he realized he wasn't going to be killed. Yet.
"Oi! Make sure this one don't die!"
The tribe of orcs was still too primitive for true docs, but the pig docs came forth with their potions and tinctures distilled in the finest medical squigs they could breed. They began roughly applying them to Bone Picker's wounds. The potions caused searing pain, so much so that a normal human likely would have passed out from the agony. Bone Picker was a coward, but he was Drukhari enough to withstand these brutish remedies without flinching.
"No!"
The Warboss brought his face within inches of Bone Picker's.
"You heard of me?"
Bone Picker looked the orc up and down. He actually had. One of the big-name homunculi put out a hit on an orc warboss. Apparently some orcs had gone on a rampage after escaping from the witch arenas, and their leader had gotten on the bad side of Maestro Chopovsky.
"Yes, I've heard of you. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, orc, when the Dark Maestro gets a hold of you."
"I don't want to be in your shoes either. Too small." Now listen up, you weedy pansy. I can crump you right here and tell Poodle to fetch me another one of you gets if I want. Shut it and listen, or the grods will be scraping you off me boot. Now, from what Red Brain tells me, you lot is always fighting to be boss, and the fancier you lot is, the more bossy you is. I want me a fancy pansy.
Bonepicker chose his words carefully.
You have a plan, then? Bravo, Greenskin. Does it involve us all getting exploded?
No! Red Brain shot down that idea. Look, here's what we're gonna do.
A few districts away, Maestro Chopovsky was suffering from torturer's block. As his subjects screamed and writhed on his slab, he couldn't help but let out a sigh of dissatisfaction. His audience didn't care for the subtle nuances, the little moments of pain, the feeling of a brave creature losing all hope. The only thing they cared for was if they got fed, never taking a moment to appreciate and savor the meal. When Chopovsky's performance was over, the homunculus quickly exited the performance hall. Ever since that wretched orc had disrupted what was supposed to be his magnum opus in deviant debaucheries, he'd been distracted. He wanted to make the orc pay. But he also knew how hard it was to coax suffering from those beasts. Their dull intelligence and minimum pain response was more than a challenge for most Drukhari to feed on. A challenge? Yes. That was what he needed. The Maestro needed a fresh new challenge. As soon as the degenerates from Lower Komara captured that brute, he would have the joy of pushing his skills to the limit. Could he break an orc warboss? Could he make it squeal and mewl and beg the way the Monkey did? The Maestro perked up a bit at these thoughts as one of his racks shambled up to him.
Yes, what is it, Jerome?
The rack handed the Maestro a scrap of paper.
They've caught him? I don't believe it. You saw it yourself, you say? Saw the ugly mug of that brute? Well, then I think we should give this miserable wretch a visit. Fetch me my anti-poverty suit, Jerome. We're slumming it today. I'll finally have my revenge.
Redbrain was right. Gitslaya hated this plan. He was chained up and encased in a metal coffin made of some sort of material that even he couldn't break out of if he tried. Redbrain and Bonepicker insisted that they needed to make this look convincing. There were a few other ratty-looking Dark Eldar that the orcs had roped into the scheme that were milling about the cavernous warehouse that was stacked with containment vessels where they had all agreed to meet with the Maestro.
This is a stupid plan, and it ain't gonna work.
Yes, you're probably right.
Gitslaya growled at the Drukhari as the degenerate shot him a smug grin. At the far end of the warehouse, the homunculus arrived with his full retinue of racks and grotesques, shambling behind him with wailing misery. Chopovsky had spared nothing on the pomp and circumstance of his arrival, even having one of his racks carry a kind of banner, which was an eviscerated monkey, still wailing as its innards were splayed out for the onlookers to appreciate. Pyotr Chopovsky himself was wearing a kind of void suit, presumably to keep the poor from infecting him, as he put it.
Ah, what sweet urchins you are to bring me such a prize.
Bonepicker grinned confidently.
Bagged him just for you. Just looking for the reward. You know we scanned this place thoroughly. Is it really just you five? No ambush? No tricks? I don't believe it for a second. Whatever you're scheming, I'm not leaving anything to chance. Jerome, kill the lot of them. Leave the orc for me.
The shambling horde rushed forward, wailing and screeching. Warboss Gitslaya sighed and shook his head in annoyance. Before him was a wonderful pile of enemies to scrap with, and here he was completely stuck. He really hoped Redbrain's plan worked, because if they got out of this, that smart git needed a proper punch in the mouth. No man do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed the ongoing story of Warboss Gitslaya as he tries to escape from the dark city of Komara. If you enjoyed this and want to see more Orky shenanigans, please leave a like and comment below, as that helps the orcs in Gitslaya's tribe grow big and strong and green. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe to make sure that Poodle is getting plenty of good boy snacks. If you have absolutely no idea what's going on, you can journey into the Gitslaya playlist to start from the beginning and find out how he got into the situation. If you would like to shower me with more wealth than Azurbai Elvect himself, please consider checking out my Patreon or my PayPal to make a contribution. Thank you all very much. No Man out.